Hello everyone and welcome to Weeks 2 multimedia presentation of the agency interview of choice presented by myself, Inez P. Short, from the MPA 540 Human Resource Management class taught by Dr. David C. Powell at Cal Baptist University. I will be talking about my agency of choice and why I chose it, examples of what makes a candidate qualified or unqualified as part of Phase 1, examples of the testing process the department uses in Phase 2, as well as what documents are needed to move forward, examples of negotiating that occur in Phase 3, and lastly, the last steps in Phase 4 in order to have the candidate start working in the position. The agency that I have chosen is the Department of Children and Family Services, and the position that I informally interviewed about was the Supervisor Children Social Worker for Child and Family Team Facilitator. This position is responsible for facilitating child and family team meetings at least every 3 months or as needed, and every meeting is usually 2 hours long. The child and family meetings can include the child, biological family, foster parents, therapists, school staff support, and other community and natural supports. The individual that I selected to interview was Miss Spencer, who is featured here in blue. I chose Miss Spencer because she actually served in this role for about 7 years and just recently transitioned into another role with the Department of Children and Family Services within the last month. So it was a perfect time to be able to ask these questions. One of the qualifications for this position is that only employees who are already employed with DCFS qualify to apply, which means this is considered an internal position. The second qualification is that the candidate must have a bachelor's degree, although a master's degree is preferred. The third qualification is that the candidate must have been working in a social worker capacity for at least 5 years. Lastly, because it is an internal position, the degree that a candidate may have could be irrelevant due to the fact that the experience is what is preferred. However, having a higher level of degree is part of Phase 3, where negotiating comes into play. In Phase 2 for this position, there is an assembled test that is called the Supervisor's Examination. This examination tests the candidate's knowledge of the department's policies and procedures. A candidate must also submit their last 2 performance evaluations and a recent updated resume. For conducting interviews, some of the considerations include holding the interview in a private setting, asking situational judgment questions to ensure the candidate has the experience, as well as listening to the candidate's response, giving them the undivided attention they deserve, and taking notes when needed. Lastly, these interviews are considered structured interviews in order to maintain and provide every candidate an equal opportunity. One thing that is important to know is that county is very strict on their deadlines of submitting documents. Therefore, if a candidate does not submit a copy of their degree, performance evaluations, a recent resume, it will not matter how great the candidate was in the structured interview. This will disqualify the candidate from the applicant's pool. And Mrs. Spencer informed me that this is where a number of potential candidates are cut, leaving a smaller pool of candidates. Those candidates that have passed the supervisor's examination, submitted the necessary documents, and have gone through a structured interview will now enter Phase 3, where a decision must be made on the most qualified candidate. At this point, the hiring supervisor does not conduct reference checks because the performance evaluation is more important. However, the hiring supervisor will look at education, experience, and how the candidate performed in the structured interview. The hiring supervisor also knows that a candidate with a higher degree will try to negotiate a higher salary compared to candidates with lower degrees. The hiring supervisor then begins the process of choosing the best candidate while keeping in mind that there has to be room for negotiation, which can include salary, work schedule, flexibility, opportunities to work remote, and other benefits that can be included at a supervisor level. Lastly, assuming a candidate accepts a job opportunity, there are some last steps that need to be completed before starting. These last steps include a background check, a drug test, a medical exam, potentially a psychological examination, and once those are done, going on to a supervisor orientation. Some issues that may occur is a candidate not passing any of the exams before moving on to an orientation. At that point, it is up to the discretion of HR to inquire about the results of the failed exam and if the candidate can move forward or not. Thank you, everyone.